Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's operator meeting. I'm Hannah Hickam, and I will be your host. I don't believe that we have a formal agenda, but we will be taking Q&A at the end. So please just make sure to put those questions in the chat, and we will get to them. I will allow Chris Eisinger to kick us off if he has anything to share. Otherwise, we'll just take Q&A. Thanks.
Hi, Hannah. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I do have just one slide with some information to share. I can do that now. Hold on.
Okay, I've just opened that up for you, and let me stop sharing.
Okay, so just have some quick announcements. This is just rehashing what we sent out yesterday in the email blast. This is all with regards to the Form 3. There were two Form 3 revisions that we made last week to address concerns that operators had brought to us. The first of those was we adjusted the calculation for an operator's average daily per well production so that it excludes and accounts for wells that have completed less than 12 months ago before we weren't properly accounting for those. The second revision that was made was to the low producing well designation, such that it now also correctly excludes wells that are completed less than 12 months ago. So this may have affected your calculation and option determination. And because of these revisions, we had to basically refresh the Form 3s that were in draft. And so there were two sort of consequences to that. And that the first one was that any operators who have populated their inactive well list with reasons or explanations and dates will need to provide the information again. And you can do this just by re-importing your existing spreadsheet, or you can download and complete and start a new template and then upload it back again. The second consequence of this form refresh is that any operator pursuing option 5, they may need to repopulate their basis selections. In any case, while most everyone should be able to use exactly what they've already submitted or compiled, I should say, for their Form 3, do be aware that if you have any concerns about the accuracy of it, you can always delete your existing Form 3 and simply start over with a new one to ensure that you've got the most accurate data and information. Finally, the Form 3s, they can be submitted starting today. We pause the option and function to submit as we work through these revisions. So that's all I've got, Hannah, and I don't know if Jane is on, if she's got anything to add, but we're happy to take questions at this point. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Chris. Jane, did you have anything to add? All right, we'll jump into the questions. The first one is, there's two questions, so I'll just read the first one first and then we'll get the second one after that. But the Form 3 for an operator seeking an option 6 plan is asking for information on demonstrated cost for SWFA. For plans where an operator is not seeking demonstrated cost for SWFA, does this information need to be submitted with the Form 3? Jane says no. All right. Thank you for that question.
That's only if you're providing your demonstrated costs and choosing to use them to calculate single well financial assurance.
Great, thanks Jane, thanks Chris. Next question is, for an operator seeking an option 6 blanket bond, the Form 3 requires the volumes for gas compressor and processing facilities. Is this required for a blanket bond, or can the operator skip this part of the form?
No, remember the option. So the options 1 through 6 are only for the financial assurance for wells. They're within Rule 702, and 702 is just about wells. So the volumes that you're referring to are required for gas facilities and produced water transfer systems. And those are in 703, and the comprehensive 40 million comprehensive blanket bond does not apply to non-well facilities. So so if you look at the rules, 702 is all about wells. It has all those options. 703 is completely separate, and whatever financial assurance is required, and if it's based on volumes, then that's what's required.
Great.
And I hope that answered that question. If not, ask for some clarification.
They said thank you, so I'm sure that means that they got that. Great. So there's no other questions right now, but we'll give folks just a minute to jump on with more questions. Here are the upcoming dates for the meetings. October 25th and November 1st may have conflicts with the commission hearing, so we may not do those. We will send out an email and let you know. And then speaking of emails, if you'd like to get on the list, here's my email here. And then if you have questions or concerns with this stuff, financial assurance specifically, you can reach out to Jane. I don't really know how long to wait to see if there'll be other questions or not.
And just to say that we realize today's meeting is very short and we didn't really have much material, but we did want to provide this opportunity for folks to ask any questions they might have.
Great, and we have a couple more. Next question is, could you please show the process for submitting a document that the operator deems to be confidential?
Yes. Hannah, can you drive on the website?
Absolutely, just a moment.
Okay. That would be great.
Okay, regular site.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So go to, where Hannah's going to go is to the archives for these meetings. There's a presentation in there that covers all of that. So if you go to regulation and then operator guidance, and then the archives for these meetings, or archives, sorry. And, oh goodness. Hannah, can you, oh, that's better, thank you. If you scroll down, keep going, there it is right there. So on August 30th, there's a presentation, says Form 3, Financial Assurance Plan, Confidential Information. And this goes through all the information about confidential attachments to the Form 3. Essentially, only an attachment can be protected as confidential. And these 3 attachments would qualify as confidential. The asset retirement planning, there's a comment box on the form to describe the asset retirement plans. But if you think those are confidential, that's a required text box. So you're going to need to put in there, the asset retirement planning is confidential, just to get some text, and then say, please see attached. When you go to the attachments for the asset retirement planning, there are 3 attachments. Actually, Hannah, if you could just go back. There's 3 attachment names to select within the form for each of these attachments. There's one that just says asset retirement planning. There's one that says asset retirement planning confidential. And there's one that says asset retirement planning redacted. So Rule 223 says that if you're going to provide a confidential attachment, you also have to provide a redacted one that's non-confidential. So again, if you believe that if you want it to be confidential, you're going to have two attachments. One that has confidential in the name, and you're going to check a box on the attachment page or section of the form that says confidential. And then you're also going to have the redacted version, because that's what Rule 223 requires. So the same is true for the audited financial statements, which only apply to option 5. And then for the supporting evidence for demonstrated costs, that's for anyone who is using the operator's demonstrated costs to calculate single well financial assurance. So there's only a handful of slides in this presentation, but I think it explains everything. And when you go to the attachment section of a form, it's pretty clear what you're going to attach, and that you're going to check confidential for your confidential attachments. So hopefully that answered the question, and hopefully this presentation from the other day is adequate. Send me questions if you need more info on it. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane. And if that didn't clarify it, just follow up in the comment in the chat box. The next question is there an update on Form 5B?
Yes, we're working on it. Let's see, today's Tuesday. I think we would have it out next week, the 5B and the 5C. Now that the 3 is in pretty good shape, we can spend some time on getting those others finalized and released.
Okay, this next one's really long, so just give me a minute to expand my box. For an operator using demonstrated cost, could you explain the mechanics of the form? For example, if the operator spends $40,000 to plug a well under 5,000 feet deep, and the operator has 2 active wells in that category, should they input $40,000 for that PA cost in the form, or $80,000? In other words, should we input the cost per well and let the form calculate the total due based on the number of wells in that category, or do the math for the total number of wells before we put the amount in the form?
You're muted, Jane.
You don't have to do the math. The Form 3 does lots of math. So what you're going to input in the operator's demonstrated cost section is you're going to put a dollar amount that's analogous to the COGCC amounts for the 3 depths of wells and for the reclamation of a location. And then the form will do the math for you. So it'll use your demonstrated costs instead of using the COGCC costs if you check the box that says use operator's demonstrated costs. And if you need to, I can pull up a Form 3 and we can look at it if you'd like me to do that, because then I could also show everybody what the confidential attachment section looks like. So let me know if you want me to try to go live, which is sometimes risky, but I'm willing to do it.
All right, well, let's see what they come back with. Thanks, Jane. Oh, they say yes, please. So do you need to share? Is that what you meant by that?
Yes,
Okay.
I will need to.
Great.
But I've never done that before, Hannah, so.
Oh, it's simple. Beside the share screen, or click on the share screen button.
Okay.
And then you want to choose which screen you want to share.
You can,
You
Jane,
can
you
also
can
choose
share
the
your
window.
web page, your browser. Yep.
So great, we're seeing my form, so that's great.
Did it work?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, let me just go look at a form. So everyone needs to know that these are test forms, and if you see your operator number there, don't be concerned. I have built lots and lots of forms using lots and lots of operator numbers, and they're all in the test environment, and you don't need to worry. Okay, so let's see. So this operator got option 4, and here's the option 4. So here's the demonstrated cost section. And here's the checkbox I was referring to. So if these are all empty, like this, the form is automatically going to use the costs that are in the Series 100 definitions for single well financial assurance. If you want to use your demonstrated costs, you just put the number here for a well that has a TVD at total depth of less than equal to 4,000. And I just put silly numbers in here. And then you have to provide values for all of these depths and for a location. So they're in there. The form is not going to calculate your single well financial assurance using those numbers unless you check this. So right now it's using the COGCC costs from the rules. As soon as I check this box, well, I don't know, I guess I might have to leave and come back, but it'll recalculate this. Let's see, what if I save it? This is why live demonstrations are terrifying. Let me go back here. I'll go back. Let's see if it, no, it didn't recalculate it. Let's see, let's look at the list. Oh, it did. So these are, it says right here, operator costs, and that's 1,000 for the reclamation plus 100 for the plugging for a well that's only 627 feet deep. So it did calculate it.
Hey, Jane, there was a additional question just now that just asked if someone doesn't have wells for a particular depth, would they still need to fill out all three?
You have, you do. Yeah. All these, if you put one value in this set of data fields, you have to put a value in every one. Yes, please. Okay. So does that help with this part? And we can jump over to the attachments super quick. So here's where you name your attachments after you've uploaded them. And here you'll see for asset retirement planning, if you're not considering that to be confidential, you would just choose this name. But if you are, you would choose the confidential name, and then you're going to check this confidential box in addition. And then you would also have to upload a redacted version because that's what Rule 223 requires. So any questions on the confidential? I mean,
Yeah. Well, there was a follow-up about the depth. The question was, what if you don't have wells or for all depth? You still need to fill out the 3 TVD numbers. I think you said yes.
yes.
And they replied that that would be a bogus number. And then did you have?
And then a follow-up question was putting in a 0. And I think you may be able to put a 0 in. The number would essentially be ignored. If you don't have any wells in a given depth range, they're not going to be part of the calculation. So it should be a case that you can put a 0 in or any number and it's just going to be ignored. So even if it is a bogus number, it won't be part of that calculation if you don't have any wells at a particular depth.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And thanks, Jane, for the live demo.
While we're in here, does anyone want to see anything else in a live demo of this form? Since I've taken this approach. No?
I'll give folks a little time to type,
Okay.
but maybe not. We'll see. Okay, I've got two questions. On confidential, the redacted copy, which blacks out the confidential information, will be visible to the public.
Yes,
And the confidential copy, in which the confidential information is not blacked out, will not be visible.
that's right.
Thanks, Jane. And the next question is there a naming requirement for attachments?
In terms of file name, no, but you do have to select a name
Correct.
and the attachment name, just like e-forms and web forms have been forever.
Great, thanks, Jane.
It is helpful to use file names that are somewhat related to what it is you're sending, but you don't have to.
I think I said thanks.
You're welcome.
Next question, is there any guidance on the company officer certification attachment? It sounds fairly simple.
We don't have guidance. I had that question the other day in an email. So if I think you're referring to the certification of financial capability, we don't have guidance for that. You can look at the rules and talk to your attorney and your accountants and your officers and put together whatever you feel meets that requirement of the rule. I would say for options 1 through 4 and 6, it's just this certification. But option 5 has a second attachment having to do with financial capability, and that is called, that's the audited financial statements. So option 5 operators will have 2. They'll have the certification of financial capability and the audited financial statements, and those can be confidential if you wish them to be. So here's your 2 attachments to handle a confidential set of statements.
Thanks, Jane. Next question is, for option 3, does the first annual presumptive contribution fulfill the obligation to complete the Form 9 transfer of operatorship?
Yes. The thing about options 3 and 4 with the transfer of operatorship is if the buyer, if the seller is an option 3 or 4 operator, the buyer has to provide upon the for the transfer to be approved, the equivalent contribution that the seller has already provided for a well. And of course, none of that applies right now because none of this has happened yet, but down the road it will happen. But yes, there'll be, this, we have not built the Form 3 to be used for a transfer yet. So we'll hopefully can just wait and see how that turns out. But look at the rules in Rule 218 that talks about providing financial assurance and the instance when the buyer and the seller are option 3 or 4 operators.
Thanks, Jane. And don't have any more yet, but we'll just hang tight to see if anybody puts any more in. All right, well, I guess I'll call it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and thanks for all the great questions. The next operator meeting is next Tuesday, and I'll send something out this Friday or maybe Monday, inviting you to that one. And if you need to be added to the operator email list, please email me. And then if you have any questions, email Jane. And then if there's any questions that come in at the end, I'll make sure to send that to Jane and have them answered. And thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Hannah.
you. Thanks, Hannah.